Thank you, Mr. Short. Today is Tuesday, March 4th of 2025. It is 6:05 p.m. My name is Corey Box. I will be your chair for tonight's proceedings, and we are going to get underway with a call to order. Mr. Macy.
Brown.
Here.
Short.
Here.
Emmons.
Here.
OJ.
Here.
Abel.
Here.
Murray. Here. Mayor Box.
I am here. Thank you. Forgot to silence my phone. Bear with me. Don't want that to happen. All right, for tonight's invocation, we welcome back, after many years, Miss Chloe Graves. Good evening, ma'am.
Hello.
I would love for you to take a moment and tell us about what's going on in your life, where you're headed. The last time we saw you here was 2+ years ago. You were a sophomore, right? Yeah, so fill us in. What's happening with you?
Yeah, so my name's Chloe Graves. I'm now a senior at Jenks High School. Mayor Corey Box invited me to come and speak and do a prayer before the whole meeting last year, or sophomore year, and I'm very thankful that you invited me back. It's an honor to be here and a great opportunity for me. So a couple things that I'm going to be doing is, after I graduate, I'm going to be attending ORU and getting a degree in leadership and innovation and science. And I plan to use that degree to be a scientist / a missionary and potentially start a nonprofit to battle sex and labor trafficking. And I would do this by incorporating science, by being able to go into countries that might not let me in otherwise without that degree and without that expertise, and be able to rebuild communities with water wells, sustainable farming, and other things like that to provide jobs for women, children, and even men who are tempted to fall into a lot of human trafficking schemes, like jobs that are foreign or schooling, things like that, that promise money. So I'm really, really excited about that. But other than that, I think I have a little bit to share with you. I have a verse and a couple things that I want to say about it.
Okay, please do.
So I'm going to be talking about the verse, Matthew 10:39. And it says, "If you cling to your life, you will lose it. But if you give up your life for me, you will find it." And in this chapter, Jesus is talking to the 12 disciples, and he's giving them instruction and encouragement before he sends them off on a mission to Galilee. And so whenever I was reading this verse, I found it really interesting that Jesus used the word cling. Above all things, he used the word cling, not hold, not grasp. He used that word. And so I looked up a couple definitions of it, and I came up with 3. 1 is to remain very close to. 2 is to remain stubbornly faithful, and 3 is to be overly dependent on someone. And I thought that that was very interesting that he used the word cling whenever the definition of that sums up exactly what God wants us to pursue our faith like. And thinking deeper into that, all of those are talking about a deeper relationship with the Lord. It's talking about not just something that we get distracted by or not something that we occasionally look to for guidance, but he's referring to us as a whole and who we are as a person. He's talking about our identities. And so in this, he's asking his disciples to find their identities in being a follower of Christ. And that's what I hope you all can do today, and that's my prayer for you, is that despite the outcomes of this meeting, the achievements you make, the jobs that you have, how well you feel like you are doing as a person in general, you can put those things aside and you can really just find your identity and who you are as a follower of Christ, rather than what you do or the accomplishments that you have. And so, my prayer is that you all would just cling to the Lord rather than yourself.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I think you've been paying attention to your dad's sermons, haven't you?
Sometimes I fall asleep.
Oh.
but sometimes I pay attention.
You're starting to sound like Dad. Not the typical pastor's kid that I remember of my youth. And you're the senior of the month at Jenks High School, is that right?
I was one of the February seniors.
Okay. Well, we appreciate and honor your success. And by the way, when I gave you that challenge coin earlier, we kind of talked about the tradition, and I didn't know you were going to ORU. There's an honor code there, so that challenge coin will do you no good at any bar anywhere in Tulsa.
Yeah,
Okay, so just tuck it away, and one day after you've graduated, maybe you can use that, okay? Just
I'll tuck it away.
Just don't tell Dad.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you.
won't
If
tell
you'll
him.
lead us to the Lord in prayer, we'd greatly appreciate it.
All right. Everybody could bow their heads and close their eyes. Dear Jesus, thank you for all that you've done for us today, and thank you for giving us a safe place to gather. I thank you for all of the leaders that you have brought here in this room together, that we can talk in peace and we can make important decisions. But ultimately, I pray that you would make the decisions here today, and you would give us wisdom and guidance as this meeting begins. And I ask that you would work through them and throughout all of the noise, that they would be able to hear and discern your voice above all else, and that you would give them open ears to hear you. I pray that they would cling to being a follower of Christ and being overly dependent on you and stubborn in their faith. And I pray that you would just ultimately let your will be done today, and let there be more of you and less of us. We thank you so, so much for all that you've done for us. We love you and we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Chloe.
Thank you, guys.
And for tonight's Pledge of Allegiance, we've got a couple well-qualified young men in the audience that have agreed to lead us. So, gentlemen, please come forward. We'd be honored. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, gentlemen. I'll get to you soon, sir. All right, moving on to our animal welfare spotlight. I think we have a dog in our midst. He seems very shy. A little bit. Introduce yourself to us, sir, and tell us what you got going on tonight.
My name's Caleb Foster. I'm the animal control officer for the city of Jenks. And here with me tonight, I have Rocket. He is a German Shepherd that we picked up last week. And he is up for adoption and ready to go to a new home. He's one of 4 dogs we have currently at our shelter. And we don't have any adoption fees or anything like that going on. They're free to go to the good home that we know they can go to. Something exciting we have going up is we're actually posting it tomorrow on Facebook, showing it off. We have multiple new adoption events scheduled for the next couple of months at the new mall. We've set it up with their manager over there to where we're going to have 4, maybe 5 different adoption events this summer of both us and the Humane Society of Tulsa going out there and, showing off the dogs and trying to get them to homes.
Very cool. Well, you said you have 3 more. Can
Yep.
you give us a rundown on who you have left?
We have Rocket here and Toby. He's a pit mix.
Yeah, the white one
Yeah, the
chases water.
white
Okay.
and tan one. Yeah. He, if you have a water hose going, he will not stop until he gets it away from you and lays in the water. It's hilarious. We also have a Saint Bernard named Brazo. He's come here twice now. We've had him since November. So he's the longest standing dog we've had at the shelter right now. And him, Rocket, and Toby are all at the same age. They're all about 2 years old. We've got almost all of them housebroken trained now, so it's going to be real easy to get them into new homes. And then the last one we have is Creed. He's a 6-year-old boxer. And so he's our old guy. He likes to be the fun police. If the other dogs are playing too much, he'll bark and, snuff at them to get them to quit. But they're all vaccinated and ready to go to the new homes.
Great. Any questions from council on, you ready, Donna, to get that Saint Bernard? Oh, my God. Is he the biggest? Is he already bringing wine to people?
No, actually, he's
No,
the
the Saint Bernard.
Oh, he's pretty good size.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's half husky. So whenever he was in that snow the other day.
You ruined, okay.
I couldn't get him to
Thank you,
come
Mr.
inside.
Foster.
I have 4, I think.
Yeah, 4 St.
Yeah.
Bernards is a lot.
She has done her part. Yeah, nobody's, yeah. All right. Great, thank you, Mr. Foster. Certainly
Thank you.
appreciate you, sir. Thank you for your efforts. Citizens' comments or public comments, this is an opportunity if you are here tonight and you would like to address the council on any item that is not on tonight's agenda, you may do so. I can just simply ask that you keep the discussion, let's just go 3 minutes, since that's kind of going to be what we're focusing on tonight. So, you are welcome, the floor is yours. And all we need, sir, is your name, your address, and then tell us what you have on your mind.
All right, so my name is Ethan Harris from Troop 185. I live at 2310 West 117th Street South. I would like to introduce to the city of Jenks a Eagle project that I'm currently designing. I spoke to the Glenpool VFW because they cover the entirety of the Jenks region. They said that they needed a flag box for the outdoors. So I was thinking I could put it in Veterans Park for now, but as I don't have permission to do that yet, I have not planned on it.
Okay.
That is all.
Can you tell us what the box does?
All right, so it's a flag donation box, so citizens can come and donate flags that need to be retired. And the VFW, at least John Schimpf from the VFW has agreed to come and pick it up like once a week. And they'd have a flag ceremony.
Okay. As I think you're aware, we're not going to approve that tonight. We're not going to have any discussion about it, but see that tan man over there in the end of the, right there, smiling with the blue shirt?
Yes.
He's an Air Force veteran, and every time I give him an idea, he makes it beautiful. Before the night's over, if you could figure out how to get a hold of him, run your idea by him, he'll run it by him, and he'll run it by us, and I think you'll be on your way to flying with the Eagle Scout like this one right here.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Public comment? Mr. Parsons, you see him before? Yeah, thank you. Very well. Thank you very much. We are moving on to tonight's general business. So item number 1, you guys know it's the consideration and appropriate action relating to our consent agenda. If anyone on council would like to remove any items A through P for further discussion or comment, you may do so at this point. If not, we can entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve all of item number 1. Let's vote, please.
Brown. Yes. Short.
Yes.
Emmons.
Yes.
Ogier.
Yes.
Abel.
Yes.
Murray.
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes. We will pull item 2. Moving on to item 3, PA 25-45, Comprehensive Future Land Use Map. Amendment from local commercial to medium-intensity single-family. The general location is 131st and Harvard. There doesn't look like we had a page number off to the side, but it's somewhere between pages 180 and 194. And Mrs. Hilton, is this,
Yes.
are you up?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, my apologies, page 194. Good evening, ma'am.
Thank you, Mayor Box, council, and staff. I'm going to do both of these cases. There will be 2 separate actions taken for item number 3 and item number 4, but I'll do one staff report. So this is a request by Mr. Russell Kozort. He's a developer who's been doing business with the city of Jenks for many, many, probably decades, honestly. And this is a project that he has come. So originally, he had a piece of ag property, about 10 acres, and he came in 2021 and had some concerns about the adjacent property uses and said, hey, I think I'd like to do some commercial there. So we left the back 5 acres ag, we rezoned the front 5 acres. It got kicked a couple of times at Planning Commission, got it to City Council. It was approved for local commercial with a planned unit development. Fast forward about 3 years, and he says, I still haven't done anything. I'm interested, and I actually think I can do some single-family residential. So that's the request before you this evening. We did an entirely new PUD because we're going from a commercial use exclusively to a residential use exclusively. So this is a private gated community. Like I said, it's about 10 acres, and I'm going to ask you to amend the comprehensive plan, and then the second vote, item number 4, would be the actual ordinance, and then, of course, you'd have the emergency clause. So if you look on page, I'll just kind of walk through my report on page 195. It gives a little bit of the history of the project. The request before you is to amend the comprehensive plan back to medium-intensity single-family. So when we adopted the Horizon Jinx plan in 2020, we looked around and we said, hey, this area is primarily single-family residential. We hope someday there'll be a bridge at 131st. There's been talks for probably decades about whether or not that will ever happen, and it would be good for Jinx if it did happen. But until then, we have to make land use decisions based on what is happening. And at this time, in 2020, the recommendation from Halcyon Levine for Horizon Jinx was medium-intensity single-family. So when we came to you, we did a comp plan amendment to allow for, let's see, I think we did local commercial is what we did. So let's go to page 196 of the staff report. There's a table 16-3-1A. And these are the residential bulk and dimensional standards. So when you want to do a project, anywhere USA, just about, there's a zoning code, unless maybe you're Houston. They don't have a zoning code, but everybody else does. And there are always some type of residential standards or commercial standards or industrial standards. And those usually include how big can the lot be? How far does the building have to be set back? What is the side yard setback? How tall can it be? So that's what you're going to see in this table, 16-3-1. You're going to see that for an RS2 zoning, which is the actual zoning that they're requesting, that our code says it should be, you should have a lot area of at least 8,000 square feet. So if I bought a house and it was straight zoning, then that I would be guaranteed that my lot was 8,000 square feet. And we said, recently we changed the lot width from 55 feet to 60 feet, and that indicates that little red number. Just a little reminder, we just did this in the last few weeks, so just kind of reminding everybody we had a recent transition. Then you have your front yard setbacks. They are meeting the code for RS2. You have your exterior side yard, which is 35 feet. The only lots that would have an exterior side yard would be adjacent to 131st Street, and they're saying your house has to be set back from your property line 35 feet. You look at the amenities, they're going to offer their residents a private gated neighborhood, so that means there's streets and all of their amenities are private. A landscaped entry, recreational areas, and in this case, it's passive recreation. The detention facility will have fountains. There would be a stocked fishing pond with a dock, and a weather trail with an all-weather surface, a 7-foot brick or stone masonry wall. I wouldn't call that a fence. It's basically a wall. And there'll be new tree plantings with landscaped green space. What I'd like to point out is when you're looking at land area per dwelling unit, the code would have allowed for up to 54 dwellings for this zoning and land use, and they're proposing 30. So it's much less dense than what they could have had. And the land unit per, the land area per dwelling unit is 14,550 square feet. So there's a considerable amount of green space. One of the deviations from the code is they're asking for a larger sign. I'm going to bring the sign code to you all to look at again here pretty quick, maybe in April. We'll see. But we've had the last 3 developments came in and asked for much larger signs than what our code allowed. So I think that we need to do a correction there. Most of these entry features are really elegant, very beautiful, and it shouldn't really be an issue. If you look on page 197, you have the zoning map. And quite a few things have changed since this was originally processed. At the time we processed the first PUD, you still had Fraser Lakes to the, let me make sure I got it right, Fraser Lakes to the right, and we still had the commercial shopping on the hard corner. And that does contain a grow facility. There's also a new building going in, and there's plans for a couple of more structures pretty quick. We should see that coming out of the ground. They have a couple of steps to do. Then one of the things that changed, that RS1 lot, I know you all remember, I call that the dandelion lot. And so that was a single-family residence, but everything surrounding that lot is purchased by a church. And they've gotten an extension on their specific use permit for a church. And so they are moving forward. It's just taking them some time. If you look at the bottom, this is what the map looked at like in 2020. So this is a comprehensive land use map. And like I mentioned earlier, we did amend that when we allowed for the local commercial, but we never actually physically changed it internally. If you look on page 198, you can see a Google Earth shot of the site. 2 Google Earth shots. So you have 2 recommendations before you this evening. One of them is conditional approval or a request to approve the comprehensive plan amendment, and that would be to have it remain as presented on the map today, which is a medium intensity single family. And then the second request is to rezone from ag to RS2. So currently that 10 acres, the northern portion is ag, the lower portion is local commercial. They're requesting to rezone all of it to RS2 and to put planned unit development over that RS2 zoning. So the plating is required, of course, and then I made some other comments in item number 4. The next section of pages are basically the actual PUD document. And I'm not going to go into any more details on that. I can show you, Brandon, if you will turn to page 211, this is the actual site plan. So this is conceptual. 131st Street is on your left, and then on to the right is the community park, etc. So unless you have questions for me, I would defer everything else to the developer or his consultant.
Thank you, Mrs. Hilton. Any questions from council for Ms. Hilton while we have her? Mr. Brown?
Yes, I have 2 questions. You mentioned, and it's relevant because we're looking at adjacent property, you mentioned that there's new structures going in on the property, the grow facility to the west, is that correct?
Yes, sir. There is an office building currently going up, and then there are plans for 2 strip centers, one that would face 131st and one that would face Harvard.
Strip centers, do we know what the use for those will be?
They would just be regular commercial uses.
Okay. And then on page 211, do we have an approximate guess as to, if I look at the lots that are designated on this conceptual site plan, do we know how far to the north the adjacent property would go to the west, if that makes sense? In other words, if I were counting the number of lots from the far south to the north, how far down would it go to meet the lot line for the grow facility to the west?
Let me see if I can tell you. So 5 acres, it's about 1/3, so about 1/3 of the lots would be adjacent to the commercial shopping portion.
So approximately five lots?
My, 1, 2, 3, 6, 7. Yeah, about 5.
Okay, thank you.
This the signs, people are wanting to do larger signs. How far out of the standard are we? That's making you want to consider a change?
Well,
Is
in
this like Hickory Creek big?
yeah, they're usually, like this one's 64 square feet, and I think the code allows for 8. So, and I, but they're not like big squares. They're
Yeah.
usually long, or, you know, they're usually very tasteful. I haven't seen one that's not.
Apart from the size, do you have the authority to say no because they're not tasteful? I mean, as a planner, do you say, hey, this is
Yes. I
Okay, you
can
do, okay.
Negotiate that with them.
You do, okay. I mean, I didn't mean, Hickory Creek, I think, is really very nice, and it's actually lit. I don't think I've ever seen anybody do that before, but,
The Reserve at Southern Woods had a very similar request. They actually provided us images of what they were going to do.
okay.
So it was very similar. It might have even been larger. I don't remember.
Right.
It was close.
Anyone on this side have questions for Ms. Hilton, or we can wait for the applicant? Mr. Short?
This isn't super material, but is that a detention pond on the south side?
That would be the north.
No, he's asking, there currently is one there.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
I'm
It'll
sorry.
be,
yes.
all the water will be pushed to the north
Gotcha.
side.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I saw it too. Where is it going to go? Anyone
No,
else?
sorry.
Anyone else for Mrs. Hilton? Thank you, Marseille. You may have a quick rest.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and, if the applicant is here or anybody representing Mr. Kozer, you're welcome to come forward. Tell us what you need to about this project. And I think you know the drill, my friend. Name and address, please, sir.
Will do. Good evening. Ryan McCarty with Select Design, P.O. Box 548, Bixby, Oklahoma. Marseille did a great job of laying everything out. One thing the lots are 70 by 150. I know she kind of touched on the land area size, but 70 by 150. Another amenity that's not, we can't guarantee, but we're made these lots deep enough so you could have, everybody could have individual swimming pools. So generally the 120-foot deep lot, just tough. So that's one thing I wanted to add. The homes will be between 3,600, 3,800 square feet on average, 3-car garage, and the target neighbor, or target demographic is 55 plus type neighborhood. So.
I'll be moving out there in 2 years.
See you out there in 2 years?
Yeah, I mean, I
Not
don't
that
qualify
old.
currently, but
Got
that's
a
your
few
target.
years to go.
Yeah. Actually, almost, we can all move out there, right? Not you. You're out for a while. What do you, just curious about price point, if you don't mind sharing?
I think somewhere around 700.
So this is your upper end product?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
100% masonry facing the street, total of 85% required up to the first floor plate line.
Is very similar to Fraser over there at the, what I call the ranch entrance?
Should be.
Okay, yeah. Great. Any questions for Mr. McCarty? All right, looks like a really nice product, and everybody down south will be happy to have some better comps. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
You bet. Okay, we're going to go ahead and we'll open the floor after we hear item number 4, so we don't do any back and forth if anybody wants to comment on this. So, and we'll go ahead and, let's just go ahead and move on to item 4, and then we can vote as a collective group. You guys okay with that?
Are we not going to, community?
Well, yeah, we're going to open the floor to items 3 and 4 together.
Okay.
Okay with that?
So you're going to vote now?
Yeah, yeah. Any other comments or questions on item 3?
Yeah, I have a comment then, and it's maybe a secondary question. So the Planning Commission has not actually made a recommendation on this yet, correct?
I apologize, I forgot to mention that. So when we brought this to Planning Commission, I talked about it, they just took no action. They approved the rezoning and PUD, knowing that I would be bringing, if you all approved it, I'd be bringing it back to them, and it would be on consent. The agenda for the Planning Commission reflects that currently. If for some reason you choose not to approve it, then I will withdraw that item from the consent agenda. But as of right now, it will go back to Planning Commission. What happened, we put the agenda out. I had it in my staff report like you have it tonight with 2 items, and I totally did not see that we didn't actually have a line item on the agenda. So I did a presentation for the comprehensive plan amendment and for the land use amendment, and said when you vote for this, you are in essence saying that you're willing to approve the comprehensive plan.
Thank you, thank you. A follow-up comment then, I recall when this issue first came up to the Planning Commission, and there were an extensive number of comments from those from Fraser Lakes, to include the applicant, about concerns about smell coming from the grow facility adjacent. and that was presented as an argument for changing the zoning to local commercial. And in fact, I don't remember anybody in the area that did not have concerns about the smell from the different periods of time when it was being harvested. And then secondly, when we talk about a grow facility, I view that from a standpoint that presents security concerns. So we're going from local commercial was what we approved it to, and part of that was considering a buffer area between the grow facility and residential to the east. I recognize this is not on the agenda, but just a comment observation. The grow facility, I think, presents an issue for us that we need to address in the UDO, because if we look at this, the general information that's out there on the literature, that creates a view of a distressed property. So if we're going to approve this to go to residential from local commercial with a grow facility and allowing residential to go in next to it, we're basically allowing those potential property owners to buy distressed property. And yes, the public information, they would know what's there, but I think we need to address the UDO and look for larger setbacks for any new developments that would go into where adjacent to grow facilities, if you're following my train of thought. So we've got a potential 35-foot exterior side yard. Is that correct? We're on PD 152? So
Yes, sir.
35 feet from the grow facility and new strip mall or strip buildings going in next to that. And unless we're going to, take the applicant's view that he was completely wrong with all of his concerns before and all of those in the community, that's why I asked about whether or not we'd have comments. I just have concerns about changing the zoning. And I asked about the lots because if we were going to restrict this particular amendment to restrict to where the lots that would go all the way to the lot line to the property where the grow facility's at, I'd probably have a different view. Just the idea of having residences go in next to the facility, I see that setting those property owners up for failure. So, just an opinion.
Can I ask you, you said they're distressed, how so, or who needs the answer?
For the very reasons that the residents that were out in Fraser Lakes presented before, because you've got, again, a grow facility, security issues, the smell of the harvesting happening right next door. And unless you've lived next to that before, you're not really going to know what you're buying into. My view is if we were going to amend the UDO, which is not on the agenda, I'm thinking because this was previously ag, if there's going to be a grow facility, I think it should be ag next to it. Just personal opinion.
How long ago did the planning commission change the zoning the first time? Do you remember?
2 years?
2021.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, 3 years.
Do you agree that these lots are distressed?
I am a full proponent of allowing the free market to decide what to do with the land. I think that we originally said it should be single-family residential. I think that when the grow facility was approved, we did not have any kind of requirements at all. So it would have never been allowed on a commercial shopping zoned lot. Since I've been here and since we've had regulations, it would have never been allowed there, and there would have been appropriate buffering. I think all the people who spoke in 2021 did not even really want commercial. They said they didn't want a tall building, they didn't want a dispensary, and they thought we should wait, and they really didn't want a dispensary, and they didn't want any businesses. So it felt like at that time, they would have preferred keep it the way it is, ag or single-family residential.
I agree with you both, but that's the sentiment I remember. I don't think they wanted anything there. And I would almost be more concerned as a small business owner opening up a dry cleaners or whatever the case may be. I think, yeah. In your opinion, would the sale have to have a disclosure on the real estate form that legally, would the realtor disclose the fact that there's a facility next door that?
I don't know how title companies handle real estate transactions. I would defer to land use attorneys, title attorneys, et cetera.
Unless there's something on the deed or title, if they've not looked into it, or if the real estate agent hasn't researched it, it could slip through the cracks. And I do agree that the fair market, the free market should dictate that. However, when we look at land use, that is one of the primary responsibilities of the council and the planning commission, to look at safety, security, and proper development for what we
Yeah.
approve. So again, I'm just offering opinion.
Yeah, I'm just concerned that if it's commercial, because the ball is ping-ponged a few times now on this property. If it's commercial, they go out of business because they don't want to be there. But I think to me, I think the less risk is to let the homeowner make the decision whether or not they want to build a $700,000 home within 75 feet of a facility. So, I don't know, I agree with you both, but I remember that. But I also remember them arguing against commercial too. It felt like it was, yeah, it felt like it was, don't let it ever become anything, but that's not an option that, yeah. Mr. Shrout, did you have a comment?
Well, and so Counselor, the point you're bringing up is to look at the UDO in the future. And I think that we'll certainly take note of that and do so. But I would agree that, you know, we have an item before us and we're recommending approval, so.
Well, Mr. Brown, I think you probably should take the lead on getting the UDO discussion update going.
I'll be happy to do that.
Yeah, I know you are. That would be great. Let us know when we need to show up, and it might be a good idea to actually get some folks involved. I don't necessarily know that we always have the best ideas, but we'll see. All right, well, I was going to do them both together, but we'll go ahead and pause. Thank you, Mrs. Hilton.
Sure.
Because we had the little curveball there with the Planning Commission, I'll go ahead and open the floor on item number 3. If anyone wants to speak on item number 3, out of respect for our somewhat large agenda tonight, we'll give you 3 minutes. We'll start yelling at you at 3, and then we'll boot you at 3.5. Yes, ma'am. Good evening.
Good evening. Charlotte Montgomery, 10612 South Fort Avenue. One of my questions was also going to be, this item had to go back to the Planning Commission, and was everybody aware of that? My other point was, at the Planning Commission, they talked about the long road going down the middle with the bullseye in the center. And at that time, I believe it was left that the applicant would take a look if they could design the road differently. But I also understand that it's like really long and skinny. There may not be other options. So that's my question, is what happened with that item? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Montgomery. There's a neighborhood off 116th, right next to the First Baptist Jenks, that looks just like this. Friend that lives there, I don't know that, yeah, I'm sure you could build up some speed on that straight road, but good question, thank you. Anyone else? Floor is open, 3 minutes, please. All right, I don't see anybody wiggling in their seats, so we will close the floor to the public on item number 3. We'll come back to council, last call on council. If not, we can entertain movement, please.
Yeah, I think
Mr. Murray.
mine would be, of course, looking at that, and I think I would like to see if Chief Ostrom would like to respond, because I don't know what the one on 116th does, if there's a turnabout, but according to the way this is drawn, a fire truck going in there is going to have a problem trying to do a three-point turn back and around, and I'm going to refer to the chief to see if he's aware of this or can respond to it.
Chief, if you do want to comment on this, then you may come forward, obviously. If you have no concerns, we'll accept the fact that you sit and stay there.
I would just say that we have a process, and we'll review it before it's approved.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Good, Craig? Thank you, Miss. Anyone else? All right. Item number 3.
Make a motion to approve item number 3 as presented.
Second.
Thank you. We have a proper motion and a second. Let's vote, please.
Brown?
No.
Short?
Yes.
Emmons?
Yes.
Ogier?
Yes.
Abel?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes. Item number 4 is ordinance 1666. It's related to Jenks zoning 25 or PUD 152. It's an ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Jenks, Oklahoma by rezoning a tract of land to RS2, residential single family, and adding an overlay called PUD 152, repealing all ordinances and parts thereof, et cetera, severability, emergencies, declaring herewith, and all that legal language. We are on 131st and Harvard, just like we just were. We are on page 194, same item. Any last questions from council related to the ordinance? Very well, seeing there's none, close the floor to council, go back to the public. Item number 4, similar to item 3, last call. Ordinance 1666. Very well, thank you. We will close the floor to the public on item 4, get back to council. Number 4. Any discussion? If not, we can entertain a motion, if you will.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. You have a proper motion and a second. Any debate? Seeing none, vote please.
Brown? No. Short?
Yes.
Emmons? Yes. Ogier?
Yes.
Abel?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes. Item number 5 is the emergency clause for ordinance number 1666.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. We have a proper motion and a second. Let's vote please.
Brown? No. Short?
Yes.
Emmons?
Yes.
Ogier?
Yes.
Abel?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes. Item 6, PA 25-44, a comprehensive future land use map amendment from parks and open space to local commercial for a parcel east of Elm and north of 106. We are on page 217, and we welcome back Marseille Hilton, right? Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Box, council, and staff. This is, again, going to be a very similar process that we just went through. So I'm going to present one case. There are 2 actionable items. So there's a comprehensive plan land use map amendment, and then there is a major amendment to PUD 142. And I believe, let's see. I'll start with page 217. So this request is a future land use map amendment from parks and open space to local commercial. And this is a parcel that has not been created yet. And so I will refer to it, if you look on page 219 of your packet, I generally refer to this as the smiley face. So that is an area that we are requesting to rezone ultimately to commercial shopping, and that little area, it's not accurate, but it gives you the general idea of the location that we're talking about. And so this request is for about 5 acres that the applicant is requesting to change from parks and open space to local commercial. So currently, this entire parcel has 2 land use map, and this is a good illustration. So this is page 219 in the staff report. So if you'll look on the map, on the left, there's a piece of pink property, or a pink color, salmon color, whatever you want to call it, adjacent to a green. And that was done a couple of years ago, the one adjacent to Elm Street, and now we're asking for 5 additional acres that would be rezoned ultimately to commercial shopping, and that's where the arrow is pointed. The requested land use would be local commercial, approximately 5 acres. The approved map amendment is local commercial, and that, like I just said, was about 5 acres. That was done in June 27th, 2023. So the zoning in this area is predominantly ag. Actually, it's all ag. And then there's a PUD overlay. The PUD is number 142. That's a planned unit development. So when you're talking about zoning, you have the actual zoning district, and then sometimes you have an overlay. And in this case, this project, we did not rezone it from ag. We left it all agriculture, and then in 2023, there was a request for outdoor recreation, and that was approved as PUD 142. So before you this evening, later you'll hear a request for a zoning of about 10 acres. So 5 acres adjacent to Elm, and then 5 acres included in that smiley face area. And then we would call that major amendment number 1 to PUD 142. If you look on page 218, when PUD 142 was approved, it was approved for outdoor general entertainment. And the primary site plan showed outdoor recreation, which was baseball fields and accessory uses. When you hear or see the actual PUD document, and the applicant and the consultant will show you that the major amendment for PUD 142, number 1, it would be to add some general retail and include eating and drinking uses and residential multifamily, as well as some additional general entertainment for outdoor. The recommendation by staff and planning commission was to approve the local commercial north of 106 for the purpose of allowing commercial shopping and multifamily development. So the commercial shopping is the zoning and multifamily is the requested use. So what continues on page 218, I call it a fact sheet, just talks about what is a comprehensive plan, and that's that land use guide. And we just talked about it. Councilor Brown gave a great example of what that land use guide looks like. Sometimes we look for buffers between different uses. That's generally planning 101. You want to have residential, but you want to have some kind of buffer between them. So in this case, we have a lot of green space, a lot of ag, but the long-term vision for the city has been a destination with development along the river. So in this picture, you can see the Arkansas River, and all of that red to the far east is regional commercial. So that's where the outlet mall is. That's where we have the river development, the river district. That's an actual development group who purchased that land out there many, many, many years ago, had a gorgeous plan. I'm still sad I don't see it becoming a reality. They had a lovely canal, big vision, big plans. It was a great concept. And it was to really kind of complement the aquarium, the uses that were north of the turnpike, and really connecting downtown with the river and then continuing that destination further south. So you can see there's a lot of red, and then there's green, and then there's pink. So what do you do in the green area? Well, in this case, they're asking to do outdoor recreation. So that would be things for locals, things for out-of-town guests, and then in addition to that, some multifamily, which would be built in this concept as condominiums. And there would be other eating establishments, restaurants, et cetera. And so to the south of the smiley face, you can see 2 green parcels with a little bit of yellow, and those areas are primarily, would be dedicated to 2 areas that cannot be touched, and I'll go into that a little bit more in the next, in the actual zoning case, and then that's all parks and open space, so no changes there. So if you look at that fact sheet, it talks about we updated the comprehensive plan. That was about a 2-year public process. So Halcyon Levine was hired. They did public outreach. The public came and they said, hey, what do you want to see? How should it look? How should it feel? We got some of the concepts, at least some direction for the downtown master plan. We got direction for the river and the city overall. So that was in 2020, and you can see from about 2005 until 2025, if we had continued on that path, the comprehensive plan did not change much. And during that time, if someone had wanted to do a development on this property, the comprehensive plan would have allowed it without a land use map amendment. They wouldn't have had to ask. All they would have to do is make an application for a zoning, and that zoning would have to have a PUD, and then they would, of course, go by all the regulations established, which they still have to do. So the Corps of Engineers, any other organizations, federally, locally, that have to do with wildlife management, with clean water, all of that is regulated outside of the city of Jenks. So you have two questions before you this evening. One is approval of the land use map for that 5 acres, and the other one is the rezoning of 2 parcels from ag to commercial shopping with a major amendment to the existing planned unit development 142. So I'm not going to say anything else about this. This comprehensive plan conversation goes on to page 221. If you look on page 223, this is where we kind of start talking about the next part of the project. So as I mentioned, I'm going to do one presentation for both of these items. So this is in conjunction with the comprehensive land use map amendment. So JZ 25 PUD 142 Major Amendment Number 1 is a request for approval of a major amendment to amend planned unit development overlay district and rezoning 2 parcels to commercial shopping. The Planning Commission heard this on February 6th. We brought it to City Council on the 18th, but not really because we had a snow event and we did not have a meeting that night, so that's why you are having this case before you this evening. So there were multiple people who spoke. I kind of gave a synopsis. On page 223, there is a little more of the synopsis on page 224. If you look, let's see. Originally, this project was approved by City Council, PUD 142. That was June 27th, 2023. So we're coming up on about 2 years. So if you look on page 225, the requested zoning, or the current zoning, I've already mentioned this, but I'm going to reestablish it. The current zoning for this entire parcel, it's about a 120-acre project. So the 120 acres is the land area. The actual development areas are about 10 acres for commercial, and the rest is devoted to outdoor recreation. So currently, it is zoned ag, and it has a PUD 142 overlay. What they're requesting is ag plus commercial shopping. So about 109 acres will stay agriculture, and about 10 acres will go to commercial shopping if you choose to approve it. And then there will be a PUD 142 Major Amendment Number 1 on top of that zoning. So the approved uses in PUD 142 was just outdoor recreation, and as I mentioned earlier, there was a site plan for baseball fields with accessory uses. So the requested new uses would include general retail. So there's some areas dedicated to general retail. There are some areas dedicated to eating and drinking, with an area, the Smiling Face, that's dedicated to residential multifamily. And those are proposed to be built as condominiums. And then there's an area for additional outdoor entertainment. Let's see. There are 2 areas that are not being touched, and that's mitigation area number 1 and mitigation area number 2. And I think I'll have Mr. Macy, if you will turn, let me get you a good exhibit while I'm talking through this. Can you zoom in on page 244 to the actual development and the development areas? So in 244 of the packet, this is the actual PUD conceptual site plan. Could you zoom out a teeny little bit? Thank you. Okay, so there are 2 mitigation areas. Both of them, that red line that goes right through the middle, and it's near a G, there's a letter G in both, just south of it. So this is true north, is north, south, east, and west. That red line is the proposed 106th Street. And during Planning Commission, there was questions about where are we on the 106th Street project. I reached out to our city engineers who have talked to the consultants. We are about 40 to 50% complete on the design. So there has been a consultant engaged to design 106th Street, and they're about 40 to 50% complete in that design process. So that whole area, that dotted line there, would represent a public street that goes from Elm all the way over towards the river. Very important for future development. When I talked about the River District development, any of those properties are going to need this access. It's vital to the safety and to the actual transportation process for the city of Jenks. So if you look at okay, I said there are two mitigation areas that are not touched. One's kind of identified with that little blue pond, and you'll see that in almost every single exhibit. That's one of the areas, and the other one where that, I believe, I'll have to let someone else describe it because I'm suddenly lost.
It's, so the,
Underneath the red line at the bottom?
correct.
Okay, that's what I thought. So where you see the, yeah, thanks, Brandon. It's in that area. So those two areas cannot be touched. The Corps of Engineers made that very clear to the city. So we will leave those areas alone. When this project first started and was underway, the applicant who was working on the project went out and put up orange fencing to make sure that everybody, whoever showed up on the land, whether it was a contractor or a sub of any sort, knew exactly where those areas were and could not trespass into those areas and cause any damage. Let's see. There's some questions during the original PUD, and the approved PUD said that the lighting could be 80 feet. And I had made a suggestion that, or more as technology improves, but Planning Commission said, no, let's leave it at 80 feet. So that's why I highlighted in yellow, but struck through it. So that is not an option. Planning Commission said 80 feet, and they recommend that you keep it at 80 feet. Where you see on page 225, anywhere it said NC, that meant there was no change from the original PUD. So let's go to page 227, and this is table 16-3-1B. So this is where we were talking about in the previous project. This is a standard zoning table. It's in every zoning code or UDO. It is, it says how big should the lots be, how far is the setback on the front, on the sides, how tall can it be, et cetera. So I broke it down. We have ag, which is the underlying zoning currently. So that's everything that's required by the code for ag. The next column, which is the third column, says PUD 142. So this is what was approved with PUD 142. Then I went through and said for PUD major amendment number 1, there are 3 development areas. So development area 1, these are the bulk and area standards. For development area 2, I have given you the bulk and area standards, and for development area 3. And then I said if you were doing a CS or a multifamily project, these would be the standards, just so that you could kind of judge where the project is versus what the code says. Then we talk about buffering and transition zones. So this, again, I'll refer to Mr. Brown's comments. Prior to the adoption of the Unified Development Ordinance, we had setback, we did not have, so let me clarify. The zoning code did not have standard setback requirements. It was just like, you know, if you want to do this, okay. But when we adopted the UDO, we had very specific setback requirements. So I don't know if you remember, some of you were here when there was a residential home that was going to become an office, but they wanted to keep some animals, and so we had certain setbacks for all of that, like, okay, well, you have to be this far away. So now we actually we adopted some of those standards in the code. So that's what you see in table 16-63 F2. If you had, so the way the chart works, the subject lot land use, so if you had an agricultural lot adjacent to a single family, you can see what the setbacks were. If you wanted entertainment, the subject lot was entertainment adjacent to a single family, you would have to go by the code or table, or item C in table 16-63. The next couple of pages, again, this is the nuts and bolts of zoning. These are, this is a use table. It's in our code. We do it a little bit differently than we used to. This is 16-3-4C, non-residential district permitted, conditional, special exception, and specific uses. So so basically, if you see a P in the chart, P means it is permitted. So if you wanted to do a project on a commercial shopping lot, and that project was general retail, you could submit a building permit to me. I would do a site plan review, and you would do your engineering, and your architect would get me all the details. It would all be reviewed by the building inspections department, the engineering department, the planning department, and then you have a project underway. It does not come back to planning commission. It does not come back to council because it's P. It's permitted by right. So if you have a C, It means P, but we have additional regulations. Ta-da! So you have a whole nother level of red tape. Just explaining the chart to you. If it doesn't have either of those, then you don't get to do it. So PUD 142 is one of the columns. I said, hey, this is what was approved the first time around, and this is what they're asking for the second time around. That's that last column. I'm not going to go through any more of it. Looks like everybody badly needs a break. Sorry. Oh, if you go to page 231, I just did some dimensions. I think I am dimensionally challenged, I'll be honest. A football field, I asked Siri, it's about 360 feet long. So there you go, you probably all knew that, especially golfers. And if you look at figure 3, this was from, there are 2 accesses in this project, and one of them is a current access on Elm Street, and it's about 178 feet from the edge of curb to the back of fence. So I measured this with our GIS system. It should be pretty accurate. So the next drawing, figure 4, about 336. So that's that pond. There's not any development around this. This is just the pond itself. You're looking at almost a football field between the edge of that pond on the east all the way to the neighbor's backyard, to their property line. Then I think the applicant may show you a video. What it doesn't show is the extreme height difference between the land that you're looking at. So you're thinking about, is this an appropriate place for outdoor recreation, for condominiums, and for retail? What it doesn't show you in this video that you'll see is the 50-foot difference between this land and the property to the west. So huge difference. I don't have an illustration of what that would be. So figure 6 is showing about 810 feet from that intersection at 106th. So that's a couple of football fields. So I think I'll be done unless you have any more questions for me. I'll let the applicants talk about their PUD.
All right, any questions for Mrs. Hilton before we give her a break? Questions on my right? Mr. Brown?
Just a couple quick questions. We're dealing with, of course, 2 separate issues, and there's 2 development areas that are an issue, development area 1 and 2, correct?
That are an issue?
Yeah, the sort of the PUD.
I went ahead and said 3 is also, because when we updated the UDO or created the UDO in 2022, one of the criteria for major or minor amendments is there a significant change in the site plan? And I would say that there is a fairly significant change on the southern portion.
The question I had on the classification, and I see why you've got CS for development area 1. I was curious as to why we didn't go with RM3 on development area 2 for the proposed condominiums.
Sure. Mr. Macy, can you go back to page 244?
Did you say RM3? John?
It's
RM3.
yeah, RM3, right.
So I'll go into a little bit of detail on this. So development area 1 is that first section. It abuts Elm Street, kind of touches Polecat Creek on the north, and then cuts kind of a pie slice there, or pizza slice, whatever you prefer. And that would be outdoor recreation for miniature style golf. And then the 2 black areas or charcoal areas that are A, those are the 5 acres that we would rezone to commercial shopping per the land use plan that was approved in 2023. And then the middle section is a large pond and has some buildings. They say B, B, C, B, B, something like that. And those are condominiums or multifamily. So we advertised for multifamily. State statute requires 30 days.
Okay.
And a quarter-mile radius. So everybody within 1/4 of a mile of that little 5 acres got a notice. When you're looking at land use and zoning, and you go back to that chart that we were looking at earlier, you can do multifamily by right in RM3, RM1, 2, or 3, or you can do it with a specific use permit in commercial shopping, or in our case, our code says that, hey, you can apply for You can have commercial shopping, and you can apply for a specific use permit to have multifamily in your commercial shopping. But our code says if you find that you can't meet all the bulk and area standards, so that goes back to that table we've talked about a couple of times tonight, if you can't meet all of those standards, then you're gonna have to do a PUD. And our code automatically flips you from a specific use permit to a planned unit development.
Okay.
So because it was allowed
That makes sense.
through a specific use permit, and they already had a PUD, and they were already amending it, we did the notice requirements for RM, for multifamily, but we just kept it commercial shopping.
Okay, that makes sense. Then one other thing that I noted that's related to this, not only our table, and I saw that within the PUD, on page 268, 269, they restated the table omitting all of the excluded uses that were not going to be included in the PUD. I did note one issue, though, on both their table and our table, townhomes were excluded, but on page 250 of the PUD, they had permitted use classifications. They identified townhomes, a townhome as part. And I would think that for a condo, townhome would kind of fall in the definition of that. So do we want to include townhome?
It is not included in the use chart. And so I would not say that maybe every planner would not interpret it the way that I do.
Okay.
But our zoning code is pretty specific that if it's not, doesn't have a P or an S or a PUD, then it's not allowed. And because it was not allowed, we started out being like, yeah, maybe townhomes would be a great option, but they're not allowed in CS or in ag.
I think it
So
is
it needs to be
listed, yeah, I
cleaned
think
up
it is,
in the
I think
PUD.
townhome is listed, but we lined it out. We excluded it on the list.
Well, currently that area is ag, but it would be CS.
Okay,
I don't think it is allowed.
okay, you're right, it's not, we had it excluded. So they have it excluded on theirs, but, yeah, I was just, again, referencing that on page 250, because it
It
was
would be,
referenced in there.
that is a necessary cleanup item on the actual PUD.
Okay, that was all I had, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Anyone else? Mr. Short?
Just a point of clarification, this is just a land use conversation, correct?
Yes.
So I just want to make clear on Exhibit F, page 256, the access circulation plan, we're not approving that per se.
Can you repeat that, sir?
So on page 256, the access and circulation plan,
It's a concept,
okay,
so you are approving the concept, but
Okay.
not in the vote for, I think this is item 6.
so if I have
So
a,
item 6 is just the comprehensive plan map amendment, and then item 7, this would be part of
okay,
it.
so let me rephrase, let me re-question
Okay.
this thing. I have a problem with the 108th, call it,
Access,
access point. Is that part of tonight's conversation?
it can be. It is already an access. It does exist.
Okay.
When Elm Street was widened, that access was provided.
Okay.
And in the planning commission meeting, it did come up, and they're willing to do a right-in, right-out only, but it does provide access to this portion of
Okay.
the property without having to go all the way up to 106th.
Okay, so we would be able to avoid cutting across 2 lanes of traffic to turn left?
The median is already in place. I
Well-
can't remember. We have a picture of it. Go
I
ahead.
There's
think
a-
what we could say is it's not going to discussion for item 6. We could probably bleed it to item 7 if you want.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Yeah, in other words, we can take a few swipes at it. But what were you saying, Mr. Trout?
Oh, I was just going to say, I believe there's already a cut in the median at that
Yes.
location.
There is.
But
Yeah, okay. I see it, thanks. Any other questions? Ms.?
I will, when we get to item 7, I can make a comment, or I can make it now. Mr. Carr reminded me, I forgot he had already told me this. I apologize. That is an access that we need to keep for the lift station access.
Bar none, full
Okay.
stop? Full stop, right? You got to have it? All right.
I think you want us to be able to service that.
Yeah, you want to empty
Duly
it every
noted.
once in a while? Would you like to maintain it once in a while? We're just giving you a hard time. We can talk about that later. I was just trying to break up the monotony because it's been a while. Any other questions for Mrs. Hilton before we move on to the applicant? All right, thank you, Mrs. Hilton.
Would you like to take a break?
Yeah, if we could, and for the scouts that are here, next time you might want to call us first and ask us about your agenda item, because you're going to earn your badge tonight. You're going to be in for the long one, okay? Does anyone need a break? Want to keep rolling? Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, did you say sure? You need a break? Okay, very well. Okay, keep on rolling, all right. So we will go ahead, thank you, Mrs. Hilton. We'll go ahead and, does the applicant want to address anything with item number 6? Or do you want to wait for item 7? It's land use, your call.
Thank you, Mayor Box. Happy to do them together whenever it makes sense for you all.
We kept them apart last time. Let's just, you can comment on item 6 if you'd like, if not,
I don't think we have anything specific to add.
Okay.
Ms. Ms.
all right. All right, if you want to have a seat, if you would. We'll go ahead and open the floor to the public. Item number 6, land use. We're not talking about the zoning, but the land use. If anybody would like to comment, you may. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. I'm Roddy Roberts, 702 West 108th Street South in Jenks. I want to thank all of you for your hard work and time, what you do here in this room. You know, developers dream, risk, propose, build, and hopefully prosper. I like Dwayne and his family, and I respect his right to propose. It is your job to consider this item and the other items. I don't know if I got the numbers right on these proposals already approved partially by your planning commission, or I guess totally, but then listen to citizen input and decide yes or no. I'm here to argue that you need help with this decision tonight. You need to get the input of all the citizens of the city and ask what they want. This project and what it'll do to the city is too big not to. The decision should not be in the hands of just a few people, not this one. I appreciate all your time and effort as you struggle with all you do. I've heard some of your meetings, and I appreciate you. We trust and thank you for your judgment on those things. The proposals that you consider tonight, this one is not that. Intentionally ignoring the voices of the citizens should bring shame on those trusted to watch out for a city. Councilors should listen to them seriously. You've never had a project like this before you. You have had many proposals heard and moved forward on in good progress. The proposal you consider tonight is not like any of those before in this city. It's for a regional destination, Carl Ripken baseball park experience. It's not baseball parks and recreational land. The lights and sound and traffic and magnitude of its impact is unlike anything we've experienced so far. All Jenks citizens deserve an informed choice on this project. Getting more money is not always worth what you have to do to get it and live with. Never before have you had standing room only and overflow of citizens wanting a say and most wanting to stop a project like this. Never before have you had over 1,000 signatures in just a few short weeks asking for the right to vote on something of this magnitude. The signatories were not misled by the gist. It was a technicality. You should not ignore and discount these reactions. You should care about whether those concerns are shared by the majority. That is what democracy is. That is what our armed forces fight for. I say that if you do not consider the will of the people you serve in this historic matter, there will be a shame on you. Stop and consider your actions tonight. You have ignored a public groundswell of wishes to have a vote on this by the people. We're all glad to live with however that vote comes out, yes or no, because that's how our nation works. That is the kind of people we are. We move on in kindness and respect for each other. I say that this is a decision you do not want to make. The whole of the decision should not be on your shoulders. You should be seeking the will of the people, even if that means the hassle and expense of a citywide vote. This project is not like any you've ever considered. The decision is not like any you've ever made. Let the people of your city give you their will so that you can make an informed vote to carry out your duty. Should you ignore all this and vote yes, and on another later item, another emergency clause to head off the second attempt, possibly in the history of the city, for another referendum, shame on you. A yes vote on these two items will further erode trust from your citizens for this council and our city leadership. If no referendum happens and you do not take into council the will of the people on this project and it moves forward without letting folks vote on it, I call a lasting shame on each of you for your yes vote. Acting using only your will on this matter is shameful. This is the kind of shame that doesn't go away with sleep or words trying to justify it. Hear not my will, nor your will, but the will of the people you represent. Good people can still choose badly. Don't do that this evening. Please stop and listen to those that you represent beyond these walls tonight. Thank you for your time.
I'm sorry, thank you, Mr. Roberts. Okay, item 6, floor is open to public comment. Land use. All right, very well, thank you, sir. Looks like we are we'll close the floor to public comment on item 6. We'll come back to council. Any last questions or concerns from council? Item 6. Anyone? If not, we need to move on. We can entertain a motion, item 6, PA 25-44.
I make a motion to approve item 6P 2544 as
Second.
written.
Second.
Okay, we have a proper motion and a second on item 6. Let's vote, please.
Brown? Yes. Short?
Yes.
Emmons?
Yes.
OJ?
Yes.
Abel?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes. Okay, item number 7 is ordinance 1665, an ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Jenks, Oklahoma by partially rezoning a tract of land to commercial shopping and adding PUD 142, Major Amendment Number 1 overlay. This ordinance is related to Jenks zoning 25, PUD 142, Major Amendment Number 1, to allow for additional general entertainment uses or outdoors residential uses called multifamily and commercial shopping uses. General location is still the same, 106th Street and Elm. Nothing from you, ma'am? Yes, sir. Okay, we're still on page 223 at this point. We'll invite the applicant to come forward. And then when you're finished, sir, we'll go back to the public.
Good evening, Adam Dover Spike with Gable Galt Walls, address 110 North Elgin, Suite 200, Tulsa, Oklahoma 74120. Thank you all for letting me present on behalf of the developer tonight. I did want to ask Mr. Macy, do we have the video at the end of this, or is it something you can find while I'm talking?
Do not have the video, I don't remember where I put it.
Okay. If you want to look for it,
In your Dropbox. Not signed in on the Dropbox on this one. Give me one second. Talk, I'll see if I can find it.
I sent it to during the planning commission meeting to this.
I'll let Mr. Macy look for that if we can find it. It's a nice way to see what's being envisioned for this area. I'd like to quickly just give a little background about why there's a major amendment in front of you, talk about some of the amenities it adds, the revenue impacts on the city and schools, and really what doesn't change, because especially hearing Mr. Roberts just now, I think there might be some confusion about what tonight's about. The baseball fields have already been approved. The PUD is already in place that allows that with the restrictions that the Planning Commission and the council put on it. That's not really changing one way or another today. Okay.
The thousands and thousands, and usually in attendance, sometimes say that they can't hear. So
I will do my best. I'm
Thank
also
you very
slightly
much.
losing my voice, so I'll
Thank you, sir.
make sure the microphone picks me up. Well, currently, as Ms. Hilton told you, this land is currently zoned entirely agriculture with the PUD overlay, and the request tonight is to allow 2 5-acre sections of commercial shopping, and then an amendment to the overlay to change somewhat what's allowed. The PUD was approved by this council 2 years ago in summer of 2023. It permitted the construction of up to 10 baseball fields. You'll see in the graphics that we're talking about 6 fields now. It allowed accessory structures, but it dedicated a majority of the land to green and open spaces as a parkland, as a buffer between the more commercial east and the residential west of there. As everyone here knows, there was a very public debate about that proposal, including the initiative petition process, many posts on Facebook and Nextdoor. And through that process, the developer heard both concerns but also ideas about things that might make the project better. And several of those ideas were about adding other amenities besides baseball that could be enjoyed by residents who maybe weren't interested in Little League baseball. So first, to provide diverse amenities to Jenks citizens, this amendment is offered. And then second, to assist Jenks in its efforts to become a destination city, starting with the aquarium through the Riverwalk, the Outlet Mall, and different types of things that attract people to come and visit and spend their sales tax dollars in town. These amenity changes should help have an additional destination city achievement. So I have a slide deck, but I don't want to distract Mr. Macy from finding the videos because they're prettier.
He'll be all right, he'll find it.
Okay.
He's well-educated.
Well, page 270 of your agenda is, I'd like to kind of take you through a tour of the 3 development areas and what's in them. And page 270, I think, is the best place to see what the 3 areas look like. So as Ms. Hilton told you, Development Area 1 is at the northwest corner, closest to the turnpike along Elm. And then Development Area 2 is the lake, and Development Area 3 there is the baseball field. So in Development Area 1, in the northwest corner, that's where we're requesting 5 acres of retail and restaurants. These will be kind of off the ground because of the floodplain. Parking will be underneath. So you'll kind of have a viewing deck up above, so you'll be able to see the lake and kind of be a little off the ground for that entire development. The green area, I guess not as green here, at the northeast end of it, as Ms. Hilton noted, there's a mini golf course, and then there's a couple structures right there which will be some simulation golf. It's not like a golfing range, this isn't Top Golf type, but some simulators within a structure, and then the mini golf. Again, that's kind of adding new amenities that don't exist in the area right now. In Development Area 2, the smiley face, as we've decided everyone's calling it, that wasn't our choice. Those are the condos right along the lake. You'll see kind of a line across the lake. To the right of that is actually a swimming area that would be accessible for people who live in the condos. And then on the north side of that, there are pickleball courts and a playground area for children, any children or grandchildren of people who might live in the condos. All the condos overlook the private lake, which we think is a nice touch. And then Development Area 3, south of 106th, is now the 6 remaining ball fields. The southwest corner, you see one structure there. That is where we were talking about the access point. That was assumed before also, but might have small amounts of food. That's kind of a pro shop structure. I'm blanking on the name of it, I apologize. But that's one reason why there's parking down there and an access point for anybody who's going just to that part of the park in addition to the lift station. As before, the outer perimeter of the entire area has walking trails that are open to the public. In fact, there's additional walking trails in the northern part that go by the lake and the mini golf course. Again, trying to give more than just ballparks and the river as an amenity for people who might want to use the area as open park space. Next, I'd like to talk about the revenue impact. I had a couple slides on that, but I see Mr. Macy's looking for our video. Currently, the land generates about $400 in ad valorem and $0 of sales tax for the whole 119 acres. Based on the construction budget, just looking at the condos, not talking retail, not talking the baseball park, just the condos, expect to generate just over $1 million per year, and that's on the construction budget. If they sell for more than it costs to construct, you're talking about a higher ad valorem than $1 million a year. As you know, a fourth of that ad valorem goes to help support the local schools, and one of the reasons we hope this project helps support the community. On sales tax, based on comparables for mini golf, for the types of retail and the types of tenants that we've been looking at bringing in, and the pro shop, we anticipate sales tax will be over $1.2 million in sales tax a year. Again, that's from 0 as the current base, and that's something that these amenities that are being added, the retail and the mini golf, that number is significantly higher than before the amendment we're asking for. So we think the revenue impact is something that can be really helpful to the city for all the reasons sales tax and ad valorem tax is important for the quality of life in Jenks. Over a 25-year period, the condos, we expect to raise at least $26 million in ad valorem, and the sales tax for the whole area of over $30 million. I do think it's important to note that in Development Area 3, the baseball fields, other than where they are, trying to move them as far east as possible. You see there's a couple of the smaller ones that allowed us to move them farther from the neighborhood. None of the rules changed. So the lighting rules are the same. The noise rules are the same. The parking rules are the same. Everything that was required before, we wanted to, that's not what this is about tonight. Those rules, whether you approve the amendment or not, are going to be the rules that govern the baseball fields. I think we all know this land's going to be developed. The Elm Corridor is on the radar of national and regional companies, Walmarts and Casey's and Quick Trips. Unlike many of the development possibilities in this land, this current PUD with the ball fields and the proposed amendment that we hope you'll approve tonight preserve the majority of the space for green space, and open to the public. This amendment keeps the dedication of the public trails. The gradation of the land puts the ballparks, as Ms. Hilton was noting, significantly below where the neighborhoods are. We even proposed the smiley face on an east-west basis so that from Elm Street, the visual, you're seeing it elongated, so it's not a big visual impact from Elm Street. So there's a lot of thought put into trying to make this a low impact on the people who are nearby while still getting the revenue and amenities for the city. We appreciate the ideas generated in the last process that brought some of these ideas forth, and we hope that you'll approve the amendment and allow these amenities to be enjoyed by Jenks citizens. Do we have the video? Okay. I was going to invite, is Whit here? I'm okay? Okay, well, Whit, our project architect, who I like to make sure gets credit for making everything beautiful, helped put this together, and I think this video is a good way of showing, not telling, what we hope to construct for the community. appreciate your consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from council for it's Dover, correct?
Dover Spike.
Dover Spike. Anybody on my right? Anyone on my left? And to confirm, your claim is that the consideration for us is really only for everything north of 106th, from
There's-
a legal perspective.
Yes, the only land use changes and the only zoning changes are north, but because of the movement of the parks in the south half, we wanted to include the whole thing since the PUD covers the whole area.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir. It seems like there's no questions from the council. Mr. Murray?
Yeah, I'm
before he
not
gets
sure
too
that I
far.
didn't, and this may not be in the place for it, but I just, in looking at the ponds and the pool and the playground area, what's preventing general public from showing up and deciding to go swimming in the pool? I mean, I don't know. It's because it's kind of, looks like it's an open pool.
Yeah, I don't think we determined that at land use and
Okay.
zoning, but my
Like I
guess
say,
is fencing.
it's
is
a little
the
early,
most
but yeah.
likely.
But it just kind of dawned on me, it's like, wow, that's a nice invitation right there, but yeah.
Agreed. I'm sure the lawyers will tell them they need to put a fence up.
Any other questions for the Mr. Dover Spike? All right, thank you, sir. Does the applicant want to, anybody else want to address? No? Thoughts, comments? If not, we can come back to you. We'll go ahead and close the floor to momentarily to the applicant, and we can open the floor to the public. We are on item number 6. We're going to, excuse me, item number 7. We're going to stick pretty hard and fast to the rule tonight on the time, so I would assure you, I think most of us have probably watched the Planning Commission meeting, so it's probably not the first time we've heard objections either for or against. So if you could be succinct, we'd love to know if you're for or against. I think some people forget to tell us. And for or against, or if you don't like it, what do you not like about it? What do you like about it? That'd be very helpful. So we will go ahead and invite the public. Mad rush. Don't trip over each other coming up here. Yes, sir. You may. Three minutes per item, sir. I'm kidding.
Less
No,
than-
you're
less than
good.
that. Roddy Roberts, 702 West 108th.
Thank you, Mr.
Street
Roberts.
South. You know, I appreciate it. What really wasn't, he gets 20 minutes, I get 3 in little bites, you know. What I was talking about as far as letting the people vote is, I'm a simple man. This looks like this project doesn't really make sense financially without this amendment for all the commercial and the condo hotels for the people staying at the baseball park. That's the chance you have to stop this project, in my opinion. Maybe it wouldn't, but financially, it wouldn't make sense for you to move forward. And all I'm asking is for you to listen to the people on this and not pull, and I don't completely understand it, pull the emergency clause so no referendum can be made. Is that true? Can I ask a question?
Yeah, there's always a possibility.
If you do your emergency clause on this afterwards, does it preempt a referendum from the people on this?
Well, we'll go ahead and let the city attorney answer that collectively, if you don't mind, for the sake of your time, yeah.
Afterwards? Okay.
Sure, we'll address it, yeah.
But that's all I was talking about.
Okay.
Is you have a chance to listen to the people. And I would say that's a heavy burden.
Well, I have you here, sir, and you have time left. You completely against all of this?
No, the commercial development, go with it. I love it. I'll eat there and shop there. I probably will even if the ballpark gets built.
Okay.
But it's just the wrong thing to do when people are telling you stop and listen to me. And when you didn't last time, that was wrong.
Okay.
I believe that was wrong. And so I'm giving you the opportunity to, the way I see it, not do the emergency clause, let people have a vote on this. And if we can stop this part of it, then maybe the baseball park dies. That's the only part I think most people are against. It needs to be developed economically.
So the issue is.
It's not this project, not a Six Flags of baseball on our neck on that street. Any other questions?
Mr. Shred, did you want?
I was just saying, I was going to ask, so the baseball fields are the issue?
Yeah, that development, this is not a commercial fun place to go. This is a Six Flags of baseball right there on the neck of Elm. And that's my opinion. That's what I'm here to voice. And so that's what I say you should let the people vote on. You didn't last time, or at least wasn't successful.
No, we didn't.
That was the lawyers. That was the gist, which is shameful. This isn't all commercial. Of course it's commercial. The baseball parks is what drives the revenue for the whole thing, just because you call it recreational. But people didn't get a chance to make an informed decision on that. And I think that's going to be sad in the future when lights, that we start talking about elevations, the difference in elevation. If you put a 90-foot light on that field, it's still 40 feet above the roofs of those houses up on that hill. So, and there's a light wall, a dome that happens. Light doesn't just go down, it bounces back up. Those arguments we don't have time to take because my time's up. So we only get 3 minutes, Thank you for your time.
You bet. You're welcome. Thank you, sir. Floor is open. Anyone else? Yes, sir, you may. Good evening.
Sorry, I just got off work. Tom Anderson, 518 East Comanche. And as most of you know, I've disagreed with a lot of stuff the city's been doing in the past and voiced my opinion pretty heavily about that. But I was at the Planning Commission meeting here, watched the video, heard the bigger presentation of what they were all going to do. And I can understand that some of the people living up on the hill would like it not to be in their backyard. But I think with the height of them, and really there's only 3 of them that are actually going to be able to see it, I think that this is the nicest project I would think any city, anywhere, would love to have this in their city. And it's going to help the city be a destination city. It rounds out some of the stuff you've already got on the river with the new mall. Everybody was worried about traffic before the mall. The traffic was just terrible for about 3 days. And now you don't even notice it. I used to live just off of 111th and Elm. And I hated the traffic then. But I still drive to Glenpool and back because my mother-in-law lives down there and my wife is taking care of her, so I go back and forth. And sure, other than the bottleneck at 121st, Elm is not that big a deal. And I live 3 blocks from the mall, literally, just right across the highway from the mall. And I just have no traffic going through my neighborhood. And down 7th Street that goes through it, it's not been an issue. I think this is going to be a really fantastic boom for the economy here. And I don't see any reason why not to do it, other than 4 or 5 people that live up there that can see it. And I understand their situation, but I think that you need to look at the whole, not just the few, the benefit. I mean, and I own commercial property in Jenks, about an acre, a little over an acre on A Street that I'm trying to sell, and this would help my property too, because it's going to bring more development into town. And it's going to help, I think, pretty much all the property values, because I don't think that is an eyesore at any stretch of imagination. I think it's going to be nothing but fantastic. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Good luck with the sale of the property, by the way. Ladies first, Miss? Yeah. Oh.
But, okay, Charlotte Montgomery, 10612 South Fur Avenue. Actually, I have a question, and it's related to the uses, so it's probably more directed towards the planning director. If I heard correctly, if it's a in this case, it's either going to be ag or CS zoning. If there's not a P or a C or an S in that slot, it can't be allowed even in a PUD. That's how I interpret it. Okay, because on page 268, the applicant has where for CS zoning, single family detached, and So my question there is, can that even be permitted in development area 2?
If there is ag zoning in development area 2, which there is, then it's.
Okay, so it's the development area, not the 5 acres.
So I would make the clarification that on page 268 and 269 is an addendum to the planned unit development provided to you by the applicant. And the question that she is asking, they created a chart that lists very similar to what I did in the staff report, but this is simply clarification on what can be done. And they're saying in development area 1, so this is not specific to zoning. So development area 1 has ag and would have, if approved, commercial shopping, both zonings. Development area 2 would have both zonings, and development area 3 would only have agriculture.
Okay, I think that answered my question. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Montgomery.
Seth Phillips, 1177 West 106th Street. Thank you guys for the opportunity to speak. I'm sure all of you, everybody here knows that my father, Dwayne, is the developer. I work with my dad. Just want you all to know that if this is approved, we don't build crap. You know, we build quality developments. We want this to be something that everybody in the city of Jenks is proud of. We want it to serve the community. Heck, you know, maybe in a few years, heck, I might take my kids down there to the park and walk around. I think this is an excellent development for the city, and thank you all for your time and for your considerations. Thank you.
Okay.
Mayor, I actually have some comments on the emergency clause, and that's actually item number 8. Do I need to go now, or do you?
We'll wait till the, we have here about the project first, and then we can invite you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Steve Eaton. I live at 307 East 111th. Hopefully this might be my last time to talk about this project. It kind of seems like Groundhog Day around here. Sometimes it's, you ever watch The View? No, the answer was that's a no. It's like turning on a View sometimes, and you can only stand about 2 seconds of it before you got to turn it off. Now, my opinion is a little different than the other guy that's got a haircut like mine. The only other guy in this room that's got a haircut like mine. We, the people, have voted you, the people, to make our decisions. Don't feel obligated to put everything in the world to a vote of the citizens. We have entrusted upon you to make that vote for us. So the folks that don't really like a project or a folk, singular or many, can call you up and gripe at it. And it's your job to try to convince the other people that we have voted you in. I think it's a good project. The mayor was out at our house the other day looking over the hill to see the survey, how close it was. It's pretty close to our house, and we're okay with it. For some of you that might know my story about the decision that I've come to sell part of the property for the ball fields. It's a long story. I'm not going to get into it. You can ask Marseille. You've got my permission to tell him. It's a pretty a good story. So I hope you vote for it, and I feel that you should pass the emergency clause too. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Project related, anyone else? Mr. Parker. And Mayor, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna hold you to the same standard, my friend. So,
What's that?
the clock.
I was just gonna talk about this until you challenged me there.
I am not gonna challenge you. I just, out of respect for everyone here,
What I've got to do is talk about the museum first.
Objection. Point of order.
Thank you, Counselor.
We could do that at public comment. You know the rules. You know the rules. Thank you very much.
Excuse me. I am Wayne Parker, Jr., 132 West 120th Place South in Jenks. That's 121st Street in Elm Oakwood 2. I have 3 main points I'll address about this. Point 1, a little history. You probably heard it. I've witnessed people resisting growth in Jenks for close to 70 years. 1958, 59 was back in the last century. There was opposition to the Jones Airport. It was going to be the ruin of Jenks. We weren't going to be able to expand. 1966, the year I graduated from high school, the population was about 1,500 people. 1972, South Dawson and Jenks started growing rapidly as people were moving their children out of Tulsa public schools and into the Jenks public schools. In 1980, when I was elected council, population had grown to 7,200 people. There were protesters to new developments during my years on the council. If we mentioned an apartment house, oh my goodness, other end of Jenks. Currently, we're around, as you know, 29,000 people. During my administration, we planned for growth south of Polecat Creek by developing the vision for the city to be as excellent as the school system, which has been carried forward by every council since, including, I think, this council. We completed a new sewer plant, which has been expanded on, and decommissioned a lagoon system, which was right by the Arkansas River Bridge, very close to Village on Main. We don't have to look at that coming across the bridge anymore. We extended water lines south of town. We provided for sewer lines south of Polecat, which did not exist in that time. In fact, my subdivision, Skyline subdivision, were on septic tanks. We don't have that anymore out south. We updated the comprehensive plan, as you all have, and other councils have. This council is still planning for growing Jenks. Growth will continue, and then in the near future, when the city limits are built out, redevelopment will happen. Why would a city restrict growth and developments? Well, there's reasons. But we have plenty of electricity. We have plenty of natural gas. We have plenty of water because since Jenks started buying water from the city of Tulsa in the late 1960s and extended major water lines south of Polecat Creek, we don't have a water issue. Sewer's not a problem. We have expanded the sewer plant that was completed in 1981. We have a master sewer plan, and sewer lines were extended south of Polecat in the 80s and are continuing to be extended. Traffic, well, that's a problem that's being addressed currently as we sit here. I've driven Elm every day for 40 years. There is, we all know, a bottleneck at 111th and Elm. But that's going to be eliminated with the current widening project when it's completed in a year and a half. Except for the rush hour, the traffic flows fine.
Mr. Parker, if you could get to your close, I'd appreciate it, sir, as it relates to the project.
Okay.
Thank you. Or I could give anybody else more time, whatever y'all want to do, whatever's fair. Keep going. If you could just get to a close, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Elm is you all know that anyway.
Yes, sir.
Elm's a major roadway. Commercial developments are commonly located along major roadways. So this development fits in regards to typical, common, and historical planning. The developer is a quality developer. He's done Village on Main and other projects. He lives within close proximity to the project. He's got a very nice house that he's expanding. He isn't going to put a project there that's going to damage his property values. If I were in your seats, I would approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Parkin. Floor is still open to the public. Item number 7, ordinance 1665. Good evening, sir.
I'm Gary Scrivener, 11201 South Juniper Street. I think this is a great project. I think, as mentioned, others have mentioned, that it's, Dwayne Phillips has a track record of quality development in our area, and I think that's a good thing. As Mr. Parker mentioned, he lives just up the street. Any traffic issues, anything going on there, they're going to be in the middle of it just like the rest of us. He's not going to, as his son said, they don't, I think his words were, we don't build crap. They have a good track record of building in our community. And since the initial design of this project, based on feedback from those in the community, Dwayne has worked hard to redesign and present solutions to address sound issues, lighting issues, and other concerns expressed. And as we've said, the land's going to be developed at some point. I'd rather work with somebody who we know, a known commodity that does quality work in our community. So I would encourage you all to vote for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scribner. Floor is still open. Last call. Okay, we'll go ahead and close the floor to comment on item number 7. Any closing remarks? Are you comfortable?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Just a quick clarification for the thousands of people in Jenks that are watching online, as you've referenced. The reference to, and I appreciate Mr. Roberts' concern about freedom in the United States and the ability for citizens to be able to weigh in. I would be curious to know, and maybe, I don't know if it would be appropriate to ask the former mayor about this, as to whether or not there's ever been a citizen vote on a development project before in the history. I can't ever recall one. Maybe that's irrelevant, but going back to that issue, if we address both the question will be coming up on the emergency clause, and then what we actually just voted on, the land use, again, under Title 11, and it was previously cited in the last action, to facilitate the adequate provision of transportation, water, sewage, parks, and other public requirements. And in prior discussions with Mr. Carr, the cost of developing 106th Street for what's going to be happening to the east between the mall and the river is going to be in the 8 figures, is that correct, approximately?
Total
$20 million, and then approximately $2 million just for the lift station? Ballpark? Okay, so the point being, there is while our land use and proper use of this property is the main concern, there is a secondary fiscal issue that deals with the public, because the reality is we need 106th Street to go through for the benefit of the entire city, to open up another avenue to the river and the outlet mall. And in the absence of the ad valorem and retail sales that would be collected off of the local commercial on this, we would have to raise property taxes. And that would impact everybody negatively in the city of Jenks. I don't think there's anybody here that would like to see their property taxes go up. So this is a way for the city to approve a development that's going to fund something that will be to the benefit of the entire city. So just kind of a reference there. And then final point, because this did come up, clarification. The city did not take an official action. The city council did not take an action to stop or prohibit a vote. That was a legal action. So this council did not make a decision to prohibit any type of public vote. Am I correct on that, Mr. Mayor?
You're asking me illegal?
question?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, so again, that's just a clarification for the thousands of watching online. The city did not take an action to prohibit citizen comments or citizens' input on this project. So again, we're following due process, and everything that's happened up to this point has been according to due process as established under the state constitution. So that's my final comment.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Short?
Well said, Mr. Brown. I reiterate what you just said. I think that's very important. I really want to get to the point he was making initially, is the infrastructure component to this project. 106 is not a want, it is a need. And the return on that investment when we unlock the south part behind the outlet mall, which will be in conjunction with this project as well, it'll tie it all together, will be a tremendous return for the citizens of Jenks. And so, to me, to Mr. Brown's point, this is an absolute, and I think this project is just the west side of that arterial road that all the citizens in Jenks will have the benefit of. And the unlocking, the unleashing of the ad valorem, the benefit that we're going to all see in some point in the future will be, it'll be game-changing. It'll be something that we'll all be really thankful for and proud of, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. And I would agree. I think, I know there's opinions on whether or not 106 should actually be a road, but we didn't have a public debate or survey anybody whether or not we should improve 100 Peoria Elm. I think we tend to assume that's an obvious, but this has not been an obvious. I do recall some people are not in support of this, but in fairness of the lessons that we've learned through this process, I'm open to having that discussion in a public forum. I can't say that I can see any reason why we wouldn't want to build that road for all the same reasons you guys have stated. And I can't imagine a future where anybody who lives in Jenks, at least south of where we are, would want to drive all the way around and get on that access road. So I would agree with you, and I'm leaning the same way, but we can certainly consider having a more of a public process and when we get to that point. Thank you. Any last call on item number 7, and before we get to item number 8, Teresa, a couple years ago you did a really good job explaining the emergency clause. Would you like to do that again? Sure. You sounded cool.
I'd love to. State law allows for the city council to vote separately from the ordinance to pass an emergency clause. I can read it from the statute for you if you like. The pertinent provisions here. An emergency measure necessary for the immediate preservation of peace, health, or safety shall go into effect upon its final passage unless it specifies a later date. The emergency measure must state in a separate section the reasons why it's necessary that the measure become effective immediately. It must be ruled upon and separately and approved by an affirmative vote of at least 3/4 of the body, so that would be 6 of you doing fractions and rounding up. Our emergency clause, it's your obligation to determine within your conscience that since the immediate operation of the provisions of the ordinance is necessary for the preservation of public health and safety, an emergency is hereby declared to exist, and this ordinance shall be in full force and effect immediately upon its passage. I don't think it's within my provision to tell you whether I think an emergency exists. Ms. Hilton or Mr. Carr may be able to help you with that if you wish to seek their counsel on that. Courts generally, we don't have a lot of court cases that will look at it and tell you what an emergency is, and that's because courts defer to the city council. So it's within your legislative prerogative. You may hear a suggestion that you need to state a more specific reason in this ordinance, or that other than just that it's necessary for the preservation of public health and safety, that an emergency exists. I'm not aware of any case law that says that you have to make a more specific finding.
And you just voted on an emergency clause at this meeting.
Yeah, there is an old case that it looks at the Oklahoma City Charter that does say that that charter required that they make a more specific finding in order to defeat a referendum. That's looking at Oklahoma, that's interpreting the Oklahoma City Charter.
not state law. We're a statutory city manager city with no charter, so we look at the state law. So that's kind of the full legal scoop on emergency clauses for me.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Snellen. And we can give the gentleman who, you have to come forward, please, sir. You're up.
John Dorman with Spencer Fane Law Firm in Oklahoma City. I'd like to, here's a copy of my remarks. I'm handing them to the city clerk. And I'll just read from those, and I'll be happy to answer your questions or comments at the conclusion of my remarks. With regard to item number 8 on the March 4th, 2025 City Council meeting agenda, and on behalf of the Jenks Coalition for Smart Growth, I urge you in the strongest possible way to please vote no on the proposed emergency clause for ordinance number 1665. Article 5, Section 2 of the Oklahoma Constitution expressly reserves to the people of this state the right to practice direct democracy through the initiative and referendum. This power was not granted by the legislature, nor is it a matter of legislative grace. The people reserve this power to themselves as a check on the state and local government authority. It is so important that the Oklahoma Supreme Court has repeatedly referred to the exercise of this right as sacred. The only limitation on the constitutional power of referendum is when the implementation of an ordinance is necessary for the immediate preservation of public health or safety. Peace, health, or safety. The same language is found in 11 OS subsection 43-103, which provides for the use of the emergency clause in municipal ordinances. When this clause is invoked pursuant to this statute, the governing body must articulate a reason for the emergency and make the ordinance go into effect immediately. Some may tell you that the courts of the state will generally defer to your collective judgment as to whether an emergency exists. However, some decisions of the Supreme Court hold that a city council cannot adopt an emergency clause if the purpose for doing so is to defeat the citizens' right to call for a referendum on an ordinance. In such instances, the courts will scrutinize the justification for invoking an emergency very closely and will invalidate the action if it is not clear from the face of the ordinance that the action was justified. Rezoning a property does not constitute an emergency. The Oklahoma Supreme Court has already told us this. The same is true here. Neither the rezoning action nor the amendment of the planned unit development meets the criteria for attaching an emergency clause. There is no immediate threat to public peace that this ordinance will rectify. Same for public health or public safety. All this ordinance does is authorize the future development of certain parcels of land in a particular manner and to amend certain regulations pertinent to this activity. Nothing the developer has publicly told you or the Planning Commission requires that the council adopt an ordinance that goes into effect immediately. To the contrary, the developer's attorney told the Planning Commission last month that the project would not start until the summer and would take a full 48 months to complete. A developer's need to move quickly on a project is not an emergency. The developer's desire is simply not a public peace, health, or safety issue. It's his problem, not the city's. The Jenks Coalition for Smart Growth is contemplating the circulation of a petition to refer this ordinance to the voters of the city of Jenks for their consideration. Unless you can legitimately articulate one of the constitutional criteria for declaring an emergency on this ordinance, something you can't do here, you will be violating the constitutional right of every registered voter in this city. In closing, I remind you that even if you vote for the ordinance, you are not under any obligation to vote in favor of the emergency clause. The ordinance will go into effect in 30 days if you approve it. So I'd ask you, can any of you sitting here tonight, in good conscience, look in your constituents tomorrow, look them in the eye and tell them that you voted for the emergency clause because there was an urgent need to do so. There's no urgency here. I appreciate your comments about the need for the road and the cost and all that, but you're not going to build it overnight. It's going to take a while to get that done. That is not something that requires that you take immediate action, that this thing go immediately into effect. That's not the purpose here. This is a plan. You can wait 30 days and you'll be fine. Please stand up for the rights of the citizens in this community. Vote no on the proposed emergency clause for Ordinance 1665.
Thank you, Mr. Dorman.
Thank you.
All right, the floor is closed. I'm sorry? Okay, can you keep the time, the same amount of time we gave this gentleman? Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Box. I always enjoy the opportunity to work with Mr. Dorman. We both practice municipal law and initiative petition referendum law, which are both very small communities. And so I did want to give a little additional legal and factual information to help you out. First, legally, it is conclusive when a city council decides whether something is emergency or not. I'll read from the Supreme Court in 1989. The court has held the determination of an existence of an emergency in ordinances is exclusively a legislative function and is conclusive in judicial proceedings. They repeated this, that's repeating it. It was also stated in 1974 that the determination of an existence of an emergency is conclusive in judicial proceedings. I don't want you to feel there's legal jeopardy or any concern. It's your decision whether something meets the criteria of being an emergency or not. I also don't want anybody to think that we're talking about 30 days here. The sooner we start with this project, the sooner we can move that lifting station. The sooner we start this project, the sooner we can have 106th and have emergency access to the mall area from multiple directions. And another multi-year delay is not in the interest of the Jenks community. It's your decision whether that is deserving of emergency clause, but I've noticed both today and otherwise it's your normal practice to pass an emergency clause. So I'd ask you not to deviate from your normal practice and not to treat this differently than how you treat other similar rezoning efforts. Unless you have any questions, that's all I have to add.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right, the floor is closed to neighbors and attorneys alike. Appreciate the explanation from both of you. And we are still on number 7. Excuse me, we are on number 7, yeah. Oh, that's right, okay. We need, there's no last call on number 7. If not, we can entertain a motion for item 7.
Make a motion that we approve item 7, Change 25 PUD 142 MA1, as stated.
Second.
Thank you both. We have a proper motion and a second on item 7. Let's vote, please.
Brown? Yes.
Short.
Yes.
Emmons.
Yes.
Ogier.
Yes.
Abel.
Yes.
Murray.
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes. Item 8, emergency clause for ordinance number 166, making effective immediately upon passage.
Motion
Mr.
to
Mayor,
approve.
one comment. Apologies. You were going to make a motion. Just one comment for the record.
Authorized.
Are we?
Yes.
Are we okay? Okay, very good. I'm not a member of the bar. I'm prepared to adjudicate something that's had to go before the Supreme Court, the state of Oklahoma. And I would just like to see maybe from our council at some point in time, the question of what we do with the emergency clause in the future, if we need to codify any guidelines. But I would agree that we should stay consistent with our standing practice.
You're volunteering to take up that committee like you did before? I'm kidding with you. Thank you, sir. Can we get back to the motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a proper motion and a second on item 8. Let's vote, please.
Brown.
Yes.
Short.
Yes.
Emmons.
Yes.
Ogier.
Yes.
Abel.
Yes.
Murray.
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes. Moving on, other business. Item number 1, city manager's report. Mr. Shrout.
Mayor and all members of council, our February sales tax check was kind of continuing the trend. It was 21% higher than the same month last year. The use tax check was 25% higher, and the total combined was 22% higher than the same month last year, and was the second largest check on record, only trailing, I believe it was October of 2024. I have some updates related
Hey,
to.
before you do that, I would say, I don't know if it's a good thing, but I'm a trustee of the Tulsa County Criminal Justice Authority. We meet once a month, and as a part of the oversight, we talk about, the whole county talks about sales tax collection, and what I would say is the overall ebb and flow of sales tax collection for every city. If you guys don't think I'm extremely proud of this, what Jenks is doing, we are the talk of the entire county. I think our numbers are almost exceeding just about everybody, and some of them cumulatively. So we are far, far and away the, yeah, they've been a little jealous, so. Oh, that's fine. I think everybody can hear. So thank you, Chris. I just wanted to say everybody is talking about this, so it's a good thing.
Yeah, there was a Tulsa World article, I believe, 2 weeks ago, that, and this was brought, I mean, they reached out to us about, you know, our projections related to our budget and everything else. So I think that people have taken notice, and most cities in the county right now are flat with their sales tax, and so to be up, to continue this trend is impressive, and I'll be eagerly anticipating seeing where we are come 6 months when we're competing against ourselves, since the mall opened August 15th of '24. There's updates on our projects and some development projects, but I wanted to mention that we had the Jenks Chamber Banquet, I believe that was a couple weeks ago. It was a great event, and at that event, our chief of police was awarded the Community Impact Award. I see that he has now left, but congratulations, Chief Jackson. On page 2, we have upcoming events. We do have an Employee Appreciation Day Friday, and so there'll be a lunch at Burnco. Everyone is welcome to attend. And we have the Jenks Chamber Day at the Capitol next Tuesday from 9:30 a.m. until about 7:30 p.m. There's some other events. We have spring break, and I think I need to mention this based on conversations I had before the meeting. Spring break is March 14th through the 21st, and we had, I think, Brandon planned ahead, and we have, instead of having our regularly scheduled meeting, which would be the third Tuesday of the month, when the council approved the meeting schedule this year, we moved the meeting from what would be the 18th to the 25th. So that there will be no meeting on the 18th. There will be a meeting on the 25th.
Thank you. I want to point out to, shoot, where to go? Good news here, the Motorsports Collective, we haven't heard about in a long time, so they're scraping dirt over there, so that's a really good thing. And to answer the question of the week, the Dollar General at 121st and Elm does not require a vote of the city council. As a matter of fact, I didn't know it was a Dollar General until after I read about it. So if you understand zoning and how that works, the system is set up to allow people to have a number of uses for proper zoning, and Dollar General is what's going there. So just want to make that clear. If you have any questions about it, feel free to call.
But it still goes to the planning director at least, so there is some knowledge of it through the city.
Yep. And the council approved the initial use.
Use,
of the,
yeah.
You know, not the Dollar General specifically.
Correct. Man, I had a good one, but now I can't. All I see is dollar signs, so I can't. The black and gold dollar signs. So anyway, thank you. Moving on to committee reports. Anyone have anything you want to talk about before we take a recess?
I'd just like to reiterate
short.
what
Yeah.
Chris said was an interesting point to make, that, you know, we're going to start in 6 months kind of rolling on top of this growth. So this growth rate may in fact start to fall. However, I think the halo effect, the impact, that as we start developing things out, may in fact continue this growth rate. And so what I'm really excited about, we've got proof of concept. I've talked to a number of developers in my private life and about this, and to Mayor Box's point, very proud to be able to demonstrate to other people who have never been to Jenks, frankly, that live across the river. They come to Jenks, they see the outlet mall, they're totally blown away by it. And what I keep expressing to them is, you just wait. You just wait how cool everything's going to be around it. Hence, what tonight's meeting was so important to initiate, the whole concept of 106, to unlock the ad valorem, to unlock the opportunity. The economic value that we're going to gain as a citizenry is going to be unbelievable. And so I'm really excited about it. So I'll gently push back. Maybe we won't have the growth rate decline that we're, if you think just on straight terms, you're right. You're absolutely right.
I said I was eagerly anticipating seeing what that.
Fair enough. I just wanted to make that point. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Short. Anyone else? Okay. I kind of gave my mayor's report. For the sake of time, we'll go ahead and push that to maybe the next meeting. The time is 8:24. We will adjourn at 8:24, and we'll take a 5-minute recess, and we can get underway with, let's call it 10 minutes, if we may. Thank you. 10 minutes. Time is 8:34. It is still Tuesday, March 4th. Let's do a roll call for the Jenks Public Works Authority, please.
Brown? Present. Short?
Here.
Emmons?
Here.
OJ?
Here.
Abel?
Here.
Murray?
Here.
Chairbox?
Here, item number 1, consideration and appropriate action for our consent agenda.
Vote for approval of the consent decree agenda.
Second.
Quick comment on that?
Item D, Mr. Emmons.
Yes. Actually, yes, it's not on consent. So never mind.
No, what are you talking about? You can comment on anything you want.
It's not on consent, though.
Well, you want to pull it? Yeah, pull it and make the comment.
But it's not on consent.
It's not in the consent agenda.
We'll talk about it in a minute.
Is what he was trying to tell you.
He's talking about number
That's
3.
item D. Item D as well.
Yeah, you're good, Real.
Yeah.
Oh, I was in background. You're right. It is. Item D.
Yes, sir. You'd like to
Staring at too many letters up
You
here
want to remove
tonight.
item D?
I do not want, yes.
Okay, let's make a motion to remove item D for comment, if you would, please, sir.
Motion to consider other than pulling item D for consideration.
Okay.
Second.
I follow that.
It's fine.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a proper motion and a second to pull item D from number 1. Let's vote, please.
Brown? Yes. Short?
Yes.
Emmons?
Yes.
OJ?
Yes.
Abel?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Chairbox?
Thank you. Item 2, let's get back to item D. Mr. Emmons.
Yeah, I just wanted to prove it, or pull it to comment on the awesome way our Public Works worked with getting what the citizens wanted. Initially, ODOT was not going to allow this to happen, and they didn't see a need for it. But the HOA president and Mr. Mayor Box found a way to make it happen and feel like it's the best thing for that community. So I just commend you for that in Public Works.
I agree, and if you're watching, David Crow, Jeff Flynn, the HOA at Southern Reserve, you guys are one of the most organized groups. I appreciate the opportunity to meet with you last year. This was a very reasonable request. Appreciate Commissioner Sims for your help in motivating the higher powers up at the state capitol to at least help us with this project to the extent that they have. And very soon we will have a 3/4 of a mile long or something to that effect, steel guardrail. And if that provides safety, security, and peace to those homeowners who've already suffered as a result of an accident for the fact that one wasn't there, then we are happy for them, and we look forward to seeing that happen. So thank you, Councilor Emmons, for your representation there as well. Let's go ahead and, why don't you?
So I make a motion to
Yes,
pass
sir.
item D of the consent agenda.
Second?
All right, thank you. We have a motion and a second on item D. Vote, please.
Brown? Yes. Short?
Yes.
Emmons?
Yes.
OJ?
Yes.
Abel?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Chairbox?
Yes, item 3 is an agreement with Tulsa County for design and construction for water line relocation on 91st Street between Highway 75 and South Elwood Avenue, setting terms of the agreement and authorizing $35,000 for design services and $400,000 for construction. Funding for the same has been included in Oklahoma Water Resources Board FAP loan document known as FAP-271. We are on page 118. Mr. Carr, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the authority. Tulsa County's been doing design of 91st Street from Elwood to US 75 for a while. And as part of that design, the city of Jenks has 8-inch and 12-inch water lines within the roadway area that need to be relocated. We, engineering staff, was anticipating that we would have an engineer design that and have all of the plans prepared to give to Tulsa County for when they would get around to doing the project, which apparently now is not until about 2027 because of their funding situation. But they came back to us and said that they would be interested and willing to enter into an agreement with their design engineer to do the design of the water line relocations. And then when construction happened, it would be part of their overall construction project, so we didn't have to be involved in doing it. It was estimated, well, the agreement includes $35,000 for design, which is a little more than what what was provided to them from their consultant, but that's okay because that's an old price anyway. And also, we've got $400,000 that's in the agreement for construction, which is, again, is also a little bit higher than normal because of inflation and because when they're going to get around to doing the project. So there's a clause, some clauses in there about what happens if the construction is more than what than the $400,000, then we're going to have to come up with that money later, but we're not asking for any money right now. And as the agenda item stated, it was something that we had anticipated when we got the loan from the Water Resources Board. So we've got the money in that loan for both the design and the construction. So we're just asking for your approval of the agreement with Tulsa County for design and construction of the water line relocation on 91st Street.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Carr. Item number 3, any questions, comments from council? On my right. Okay, on the left, Mr. Murray.
When is, you said that it's kind of delayed, was there a potential date of starting this construction? I know that it's, theoretically, you said 2027, is that kind of a set in stone time frame, or?
Well, they have to wait and get enough money in so that they can disperse the money out, and they don't have enough money right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we met with them, and because of, they're also doing the project on 121st from Elwood to Highway 75, and they were kind of putting that one off further, which we thought in our meeting with them that it would be better to do 121st than 91st. And they kind of agreed, but that's what they're anticipating now is probably 2027.
So when you say they kind of agreed, they did not fully agree?
Well,
Do you need,
I don't know. I mean, it was the county engineer sitting there in the meeting, and I don't even remember that there was a counselor there, or county commissioner, so.
if you need help motivating them, just let us know. I think we know all of them.
Yeah, and I do too, so.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Let's motivate them to prioritize.
Well, I think
Unless you
that's
guys
the direction
disagree,
they were gonna try
90
and move in, to
yeah.
try and do 121st first.
Yeah, I think so. Speaking of, if I can deviate off topic for a moment, the utilities, Peoria Elm, going well? AT&T?
No,
Nope.
no, they're finally moving now. It took them 3 weeks to start doing something on their design, but.
Okay, thank you, sir.
They're trying to get out of the way.
All right, last call, council, item number 3. Okay, we can entertain a motion, please.
Motion to approve agreement with Tulsa County for design and construction of water line relocation on 91st Street between US 75 and South Elwood.
Second.
Thank you both. We have a proper motion and second, item 3. Let's vote, please.
Brown?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
Emmons?
Yes.
Ogier?
Yes.
Abel?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Chairbox?
Yes. Mr. Shroud, anything else in general manager's report? Last call.
No, sir.
All right, last call from council, trustees, rather. All right, it's 8:45. Thank you for your time. We are adjourned.